Welcome back to Star Narratives, the podcast. This is your go-to for accessible and relatable astrology designed to help you understand your inner workings and spiritual awakening. I'm your host, Natha Perkins. Hello and welcome to another week. This is Natha. We have spent the last few weeks talking about Leo. Of course, the Leo archetype is coming up in all of my readings with everybody, whether we're doing Leo readings or just regular readings, because we can all sense that we're in a time period of shift where it's just incredibly important to keep tending that inner flame and having an inner dialogue with self. So that's what we're doing here on this podcast. If you're new here, I spend season 5 using the sun signs as a map of the psyche, helping you to understand your own inner landscape, your own inner psychology better, helping you to make spiritual connections, psychological understandings, using the tool of astrology. I ask questions designed to help you self-inquire. It just feels like really important work to be doing on the planet right now. And for now, it feels like my life's work to help as many people as possible, which is why I ask that you share my work, you like, you comment, you subscribe, but know that I give this work from a place of knowing that it's what I can do, my own little piece of help in healing the planet. And the more people that resonate with this work and can find it, the better. So I thank you for joining me. And I thank all of you who reach out and tell me how helpful every episode was, or the nuggets of wisdom that you got from listening. I do not call myself a channel, but I do feel that I pull information from the dynamic field of awareness. It seems to be the information that people need. If you're listening to this, there's something here that is meant to resonate with you. So I love hearing the feedback and knowing that it is indeed touching each of you in your fiery hearts. All right. If you like my style and you want to book a private reading or you want to work with me in another capacity, you can find me at electraastrology.com. Leo season is quite the thing this year. And I think that it's because so many of us are doing all of this significant shifting and changing. The veils are so much thinner. We are able to see the nature of the matrix that we're living in a different way. We're all tuning into different parts of it, but it's becoming more obvious that there are indeed many control mechanisms that are designed to make us see the world, see our community, see ourselves through distorted lenses. And so we're going to talk about that today because we're talking about Leo and Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign that is across the zodiac from Leo, and so these two are always hand in hand. Leo is the energy of the self. And if we're tuning into ourselves, we understand that we each have a true north, that there is some driving force that makes us who we are, that informs us about what we're doing here, what is possible, what our mission is. And when I share with you that I feel that part of my mission right now on the planet is to help people understand themselves, that is part of my Leo nature, that is part of my true north. The more that we come to understand that we each have this authenticity that is available to us, and we also start to see all of the veils that have been covering that true authentic self. And we start to pull away the veils. And we've talked about it over the last few weeks, and certainly over the last few months as we've dove into all of these different sun signs. This idea that we are largely informed that we are who our parents, our teachers, our culture, our governing bodies, our inner critics want us to be. And we develop these defense mechanisms, these survival mechanisms, really, around if I show up and I'm nice, good, smart, successful, desirable, then I'll be okay. And then we integrate those things and we make them a part of our personality. And then we relate to ourselves as being those things. But when we start to pull those concepts away, we say, well, no, who am I if I'm not desirable? Who am I if I'm not wealthy and successful, if I'm not young and lithe? Because we all know that the nature of human life is that Nothing is ever the same. We all bump up against these life circumstances that knock us down, that make us see, oh my God, it's not all about how polite I am. It doesn't really matter if people like me or if people think that I'm funny or I have a certain amount of money. I mean, all of these things in many ways grease the wheels. They can make aspects of our life easier. But when it comes to the truth of who we are, those things don't really hold any water. They're empty. So the more that we come to see that, and the more that we come to understand that we have this true essence that is connected to our higher self and is connected to higher power. And that essence, that inner flame, is the clean, clear, distilled, non-distorted version of us. But in order to get there, we have to understand how seductive it is to slip into those conditioned patterns that we've all developed, because it is the conditioned patterns that make us feel safe. They aren't actually that safe. They're draining and they're exhausting. They leave us feeling confused. They leave us feeling like nobody really loves me for who I am. They only love me for my facade. And the more that you get into personal work, spiritual work, the more you start to understand that in order to really truly feel connected to anybody, you have to feel connected to self, which then leads you into a connection with your higher power, which is the baseline. It's where we find that stability. Nobody can take that higher power connection from us. Nobody can steal our peace from us if we have detached from needing to have those ego structures that are propping us up so that we look good from the stage. So this idea of the stage, Leo is the actor. Leo is the part of us that wants to be seen. We want the attention. We want to feel as if we're doing something positive and powerful and creative, and we want other people to see us doing it. And there's this idea that if we have more followers, more of an audience, if we're more popular, if more people are there watching us and applauding us, then we're doing something right. And that's when we bring in this concept of Aquarius, because Aquarius is the audience. Aquarius is the people in our lives, the people around us, the general public, the people that we are in groups with, our colleagues. So Aquarius is an air sign and it is fixed. It is very relational in nature. So it speaks to our relationship with, quote unquote, the people. And most of us have a pretty tricky relationship with the people, especially if we have a strong ego that needs to be propped up in order to feel like you're getting reflected in the way that you want. Imagine that if you're the actor on the stage and people are booing you, it's painful. If nobody's clapping for you, it's embarrassing. If you're just an extra and somebody else is getting all the attention, it can feel diminishing. So there's all of these ways that we relate to that audience and we think, oh God, I don't want that. Definitely don't want that. So what do? We start really amping up the performance. Look at me, see me. I'm important. I'm beautiful. I'm wealthy. I'm successful. I have a lot of followers. I have people that love me. But that's where we get into that field of emptiness. Like, God, I'm just performing. I'm just putting on this act and people are interested in me, but does that really mean that they love me? Does that really mean that they are connected to my heart? So we've talked about this over the last few weeks, the importance of this heart connection. And if you think about the people in your life that you have that heart connection with, meaning you feel seen, you feel safe, you don't have to put on an act, you don't have to put on your makeup, you can show up and be schlumpy. I was talking to my mom. Shout out to my mom who listens to this podcast every week, which I think is amazing. We were talking about some of the content from last week around people who really love you, don't care what you look like. They don't care whether you're successful. And I was sharing a story with her about my teenage daughters and how for a while they would send me selfies and they were always the most awkward, bad selfies. And we always laughed because we all know when we're taking pictures, 3/4 of the time, 90% of the time, they're terrible. And we think, oh God, I didn't realize I had such a double chin, or wow, I didn't realize I looked so bad. So the girls would send me their selfies, their ugly selfies all the time. And we would all get such a kick out of it. And the reason that they would send those is because they were funny. And also, they knew that I did not care at all whether they were perfect in those pictures. And so the people that we have that beautiful heart-centered connection with, those are the people that we open up to, that we show our most real self to, the people that we don't have to perform and posture for. So think about the people in your life that fall into that heart-centered category. And then think about the people that you're still performing for, that you're still posturing for. You're wanting to look good. You're wanting to come across as a certain version. You're selling a specific narrative. So take a minute and just tune into that feeling. Take some deep breaths into your heart center and just notice what feelings you have about those relationships where you're just putting on an act. You're smiling, you're agreeable, you are sidestepping certain versions of conversation, certain topics of conversation. Think about the extra energy that it takes to be around those people. So as we look at the duality between Leo and Aquarius, we have to start saying, what is it that I want my relationship with this collective to be like? Who is in my village? Are the right people in my village with me? Am I around people that will love and respect me even if I disagree with them, even if I have different political leanings or bodily autonomy choices? Is it okay? Because as we're dialing into our Leo selves and we're beginning to see what our core essence is and what is important, and we all have these soul missions to come in. And whether you believe in past lives or not, we can say we come in with past life trauma. We come in with experiences that impacted us deeply. And we carry the residue of those experiences into this life in an attempt to heal. And if you don't believe in past lives, you just look back at your early childhood years and you say that was a past life. And there was certainly a ton of trauma for all of us in our younger years. It's part of being human. And so we're all, in many ways, trying to unpack the difficult things that happened to us, the beliefs that we acquired about our goodness or our badness, right? Usually it's our badness. We develop a lot of self-confidence issues. We don't want bad things to happen again. We learn how to play the game. Then we get to a place where we are adults, we're doing spiritual work, we're doing self-awareness work, and we start to get that we're done playing that game. And we start looking around for ways to heal. And we still have to deal with people. They're all over the place, everywhere we go. And because we're all under this attempt by the media, the governing bodies, the cultural norms, the religions, just think about all of this top-down authority and the ways that they, quote unquote, they teach us about how to act, how to be, what's expected. And they just help us to distort our true self. Like I said at the beginning, we start contorting ourselves so that we can be palatable for all of these different influences. So now, as we sit here today and you're listening to this podcast, it comes up. Is my network safe? Can I be myself? And, we see a lot on social media with people being overly vulnerable, and they come in and they want to open up and tell you about every terrible thing that's ever happened to them. And they want to share where they're at emotionally in any given moment. And that works for some people, but it's not what's required here. What is required is that you become vulnerable enough with yourself that you understand the people that are not for you. You understand that while we are in a collective, that not everybody is going to resonate with you. Not everybody is going to be your people. But that when it comes down and we narrow down in and we get to our village, does our village accept us for who we are? And how is our village responding to us as we are casting off all of these layers of ego, personality, self. And one thing that has struck me as I've been looking back over all of my old relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, etc., that have disintegrated and have gone away, what I see is I can't be the person that I used to be. I can't play the game in the way that I used to, and that's okay. And so when we're looking at this concept of who are we, and then who are we surrounded with in that second circle, and then who's outside in that third circle, we'll just call them the rest of the world. We look at the rest of the world and we say, listen, we're not ever going to be homogenized with the rest of the world. And that's part of what we see that is so stressful right now for people in a political sense. Some of those powers that be really push for the homogenization of everybody. They want everybody to think the same, believe the same, make the same choices, agree with everybody. And that's really not possible. And how could it be possible when everybody is so very unique? And that's part of the lesson of Aquarius. We learn to conform and then we learn to rebel. So we're working with those questions right now in a big way as Pluto is getting ready to move into Aquarius for the next 20 or so years. Conforming, rebelling. We know that that third circle out, we almost have to just let those people do their thing. The second circle in, which is our village, we want to be more and more clear about whether the people in our village are going to love, accept, and enjoy us for who we are. Because that first circle in is that Leo sense of self. And in order to really be authentic to who you are, who we are, we have to accept ourselves. We have to say, look, I'm not somebody that enjoys being around large groups of people. I'm not somebody that enjoys being lied to. I'm not somebody that cares about the brand of shoes that I wear. And I'm just giving you some various examples. If you look back into your history and all the people that you were friends with, the people that you were in relationship with, and the things that you let slip because the relationship was serving some other purpose. But think about the times when you were lied to, or the times that you were posturing and fronting a false version of self because you wanted to fit in, you wanted to conform, you had to work with the rules, the context of those relationships. And look at your relationships now. Hopefully, you're looking around at your inner circle, your second circle, and you're saying, yeah, I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I feel like if I say the wrong thing, I'm not going to get rejected and ostracized. I'm not going to be made fun of. That's part of what we're really working with right now is the idea that you can't please everybody. You do not have to play by everybody else's rules. And the package that we were all sold, starting from when we were very young, that said, in order to be loved, you have to be these things. That package is no longer fits. It no longer works. We're not buying that package anymore. So just take a deep breath into that. And you might notice as Pluto is back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn, only till the end of 2024, you might see that you are mourning old relationships, or that you're getting insight into relationships that collapsed. And what you might see if you dig a little deeper is why they collapsed and why they would not be a good fit for you at this point in your life anyway. And so we wish all of those people well. We send them off with love and the hope that they find themselves in the same way that you're finding yourself. But as we're moving into reshaping of humanity, this reinvention of self, the more clear you are around what lights your heart up, how to connect in with your heart-centeredness, and by proxy with your spiritual nature, the more clear you become about who you allow into your Aquarian audience. And you are discerning, knowing that if somebody, like I said last week, if somebody doesn't like you because your skin is the wrong color or your political beliefs don't align with theirs, then perhaps they're not a useful part of your village. So I'll end with saying the striving and the efforting to look good from the outside, to have an audience that adores you because you look good from the outside. That's coming to an end. That's not the audience that we are as spiritual people, as self-aware people are needing any longer. And sometimes that might feel a little disconcerting, or you might question your choices, or you might say, how come I feel lonely? And know that as you're in any sort of transition where old relationships are leaving and it's leaving a void, new relationships will come in to fill that void. But your goal before that happens is to fill that void with your self relationship. The more you know yourself, the more authentic you are with yourself, the more that you're following your true north, you're going to pull in a different vibration of friend or of romantic partner that's going to be a better fit for this evolved version of self. All of these things that we're talking about over these weeks, they're a part of the big grand tapestry. And they may feel disparate, they may feel different, but know that once we're working on this tapestry and we stand back, we're going to start to see the picture. We're going to start to really get it. Like, why am I in the life of spiritual awakening? Why am I in the life of self-awareness? Because you all know it's harder. It is harder than doing the lives of autopilot. And many people are still on the planet doing lives of autopilot, and that's okay. That's their journey. But for you, all of this personal work, it adds up, and it adds up into quite the wealth, quite the abundance of self. All right, let's talk about the astrology of the week. We begin really on Wednesday as Mercury retrograde slips back into the sign of Leo. So Mercury retrograde in Virgo has been showing us a lot of our blind spots when it comes to our own righteousness. And think about your part in being a collective, in being somebody else's audience, in being in somebody else's village or in their third circle. We all fill those roles in other people's lives. It's very easy, and it's become very in vogue to be quite opinionated about world events, political things, the way that people live their lives. Mercury going retrograde in the sign of Virgo is hopefully showing you some of the places in your own life where you're judgmental and you're opinionated and you feel, whether it's like you want to change the way somebody feels, or you want to put them in their place, you want to tell them that they're wrong, or you feel like you're being of big service to humanity by trying to change somebody. There's all these different motivations. What we come to understand as we're working with this Leo Aquarius archetype, especially from the other side, when we understand that we're also the audience, how helpful is it to be out in the audience booing at somebody? And so as Mercury has been going backward through Virgo, maybe you have seen some places where your own judgment is causing harm. So we have to be really careful about expressing our opinions and giving people advice, unsolicited advice. It ends up sounding like criticism. And I think that's part of the lesson plan of this Mercury in retrograde, because then as it slips back into Leo, now we get to start looking at our own ego and how our ego comes in and wants things to be a certain way. So when we're the audience, we want people to be beautiful. We don't want them to look old. We don't want them to be bigger than us. We want to feel like they're successful, and by associating with them, that we are therefore successful as well. So think about all of these motivations. We have been looking a lot at the self and how we relate to feeling the pressure of needing to be young, beautiful, rich. What about the way that we as a collective pressure people to do that? Think about where you expect for somebody to show up in a certain way so that it props you up. Mercury travels back to 21 degrees of Leo. That's going to take until August 28th. So this is you getting to look at your own impact on people. You're building your own sacred center, but how often do you impact somebody else's sense of self in a way that's difficult? And the reason I'm speaking to the difficulty here is because Mercury is in retrograde, and the retrograde planets ask that we go back over old ground. So this is about you looking at your impact on other people. And a lot of us have the best of intentions. So we can say that we come from a place of wanting to change the world and wanting to improve people. But we have to walk on eggshells right now, especially right now, because the volatility in the air that in many ways is part of this overarching group of collective energies, media, religion, culture, governing bodies, all of that, that want so badly to control us through all of their marketing, that we also have to control ourselves. But we look at it like it's positive control. I'm controlling what I say because I don't want to perpetuate abuse. I mean, that's really it. If you look at social media comments right now, whether it's online under a newspaper article or it's on a social media platform, people are ruthless. It's become okay to troll and bully. And of course, we see that in our circles as well. Something that happened with a large amount of people, many of you who I have spoken to about it and had the experience, because of the divide in beliefs since 2020, there have been many families and friend groups that have divided and have become split because of it. And that was largely in part because people felt the need to express their opinions and give unsolicited advice and try to get somebody to change. So we're not trying to get people to change right now. We're working on our own internal North Star. We are looking at our own stuff. We don't want our inner critic to come out and be beating everybody over the head. It's not useful. It's not helpful. It is not cohesive. It's not a way to be in community. So this is a month where we're looking at how can I be a positive impact on my community. Now you can still be out affecting change, but can you affect change in a way that feels good and creative and joyful and full of laughter, as Leo has us do? And you could say that sounds trite, laughter, having fun with it. But you know that saying, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Try to be honey. More honey, less vinegar. We also have Mars and Jupiter coming together to make a conjunction. These are two power planets. Jupiter asks us to see the bigger picture. In this case, Jupiter traveling through Gemini says, what is your mind doing? Where does your mind go? Are your thoughts driving you nuts? Are they valuable? Where are you getting your information? Zoom out, look at the bigger picture. And Mars says, where do you need to take action? Why don't you choose your battles? If you are somebody that works with tarot, the swords cards are the hardest cards to get, and those are the thought cards. That's all the mental energy. Well, Gemini is the thought sign. It's the mental energy. So you want to be really discerning about where your thoughts are taking you and what kind of actions you want to take based on your thoughts. Until you zoom out and see the bigger picture, it's very easy to get stuck and muddled up in your teeny weeny little thoughts. She said that to me in 1987 and I'm still mad about it. Or I can't believe that this person posted that. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. None of that is as helpful as you becoming aware of the power of your thoughts. We talked about that all through Gemini season. So if you didn't get to listen to those episodes, go back and listen to them. They're good. The following day on August 16th, we have Mars making a square with Saturn. None of this is very easy energy. So just know that this week may feel a little edgy. And that's okay, because Saturn in Pisces is trying to get you to understand the human limitations that you have, especially if you don't invite a higher power into your life. Saturn is all about performance and achievement and success, but Pisces couldn't care less about those things. Pisces is trying to teach us that there are bigger forces than us at work. And so after you have wrestled with these thoughts, now you're up against Saturn, which says, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to think about how your thoughts might be distorted and ruining your life? I should say ruining your emotional well-being. Or are you going to make some sort of effort consistently to manage your thoughts in different ways? If we go back to the 15th, we do have one thing that is sweet, which is where Chiron and the sun are connecting in a trine. They're actually technically connecting in with the moon as well at this point. So sun, moon, Chiron, all in a grand fire trine. The trines feel good. They bring us the remedies. So know that if you're having an anxious, edgy week where everyone is annoying you and your thoughts are trying really hard to distort your reality, that you can lean into your healing and lean into your heart and your soul. Take some alone time, go have some fun, because this is going to help ease the difficulty. And no, take me with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that you're going to have a terrible week. I'm just saying that some of the themes that are rising up to the surface for all of us are so intricate. Our brains need to wrap themselves around these themes to fully understand them. We're being presented with higher level material. It's like you're in the AP class now and things are going faster. The material is harder. The concepts are more elaborate and you have to keep up. So how do you keep up when you're in a really difficult class? You make sure that you have some relaxation time, that you're eating good food, that you're spending time in nature, that you are having a little fun around the edges. That's how you keep your sanity. And of course, with all this Leo energy, it's how you stay connected to your heart. All right, I hope this was helpful. Have a great week. Thanks so much for joining me. If you have enjoyed what you have heard, like, subscribe, leave a message, leave a review. You can find me on Instagram at Electra_astrology or on my website at electraastrology.com.